Hello there, and welcome back to Nerd.World Films with a slightly different format for this episode, as I can't use my camera at the moment as I'm currently redecorating and don't have a place to film this. So, with that said, welcome back to the Lord of the Rings series I've been doing in anticipation of the new Amazon series debuting later this year. Of course, that series has a lot of controversy, but personally looking forward to it. Might discuss that a little later in the video. And this episode specifically is on the wicked men, or so-called wicked men of Middle-earth that we see in the movie franchise. And I should point out, as this is a films channel and I'm a big films fanatic, we're talking about the film series only, not the broader works of Tolkien. Although I do expect at some point to review The Rings of Power. That'll probably be on my other channel, Nerd.World, which, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff over there. Maybe hit the bell notification icon. You'll find that channel's very similar to this one, only it's much more broad and is generally focused on television rather than film universes, which again, pointing out, this is on the film universe. And to begin with, we'll subdivide this. We will begin with the Corsairs. There are three principal belligerents of wicked men, quote, Gollum, that appear in the Peter Jackson incarnation of the Lord of the Rings, of course. And to begin with, the Corsairs, probably one of the more underrepresented. The Corsairs actually have a very rich and interesting history in the book, but you don't really see or learn much of that in the movie. In short, they're pirates. They are the pirates of the Caribbean. They are the Jack Sparrows of Tolkien's works. And that's putting it mildly. They have a very complicated history, and we can assume that they have something of the same history in the movies. Basically, they are pirates, and they are seen to be raiding up and down the shores, particularly of Gondor, as well as other kingdoms, of course, during the expansion of Sauron's forces during the War of the Ring. They attack various settlements and outposts and slaughter all there. They are extremely violent, very well armed, and known for their ruthlessness. They are defeated, of course, by an army of ghosts, not the one from Doctor Who, but that would have been kind of awesome in a really terrible way. But they are defeated by an army of ghosts and ultimately are used as a surprise force against the orcs. Their intervention into the Battle of Minas Tirith might actually have been a tipping point, for there were a considerable number of them. However, as well as a good naval force as they were, I do have my doubts as to how effective they would have been as a cohesive land army. The other two forces seemed considerably more organised and efficient in that respect. Now again, what we saw of them in the movies was limited, and they were mostly massacred when they basically refused to stop what they were doing. They were, of course, followers of Sauron, but these are pirates and mercenaries and basically follow the money. Sauron promised these people riches, which is why they went the way that they did. The next group we'll talk about are the Easterlings. And I'm really sad that we didn't see more of this race in the movie. What we saw of them, they look pretty awesome with their sort of quite Eastern looking armour, and I think that's a deliberate reference, as in Tolkien's works basically is quite famous for the idea being he was creating a fictional history of the English. And when he mentions Easterlings, he is, I believe, in some way basically referencing people of the East and Eastern culture. They are mentioned as being darker skinned and darker toned than those that lived in the West. And to be fair, they're stereotypical looking a little bit as they were, sort of almost like samurai, like warriors. They hold up that image. They look pretty cool. The only ones we see of them are them marching at the Black Gate, and a few of them approaching Sam and his other little hobbit friend who he was carrying the entire movie, because we all know that Sam is the real hero of this franchise. Frodo, drop my sword in the blink of an eye because I'm in danger. Baggins. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. So we see a couple of them approach them. They can't see anything. They assume it's a bit of rock. They move on. And that's pretty much all we see of the Easterlings. We can assume there were several of them at the Battle of Minas Tirith. There was probably some of them at other engagements, but we never really got to see it. So again, in brief though, although I'm not really touching the book lore here, they are basically people of the East. And for those that know, that's where the Blue Wizards went, and it's basically a big chapter of the story that was never widely explored. And to be honest, I think is going to be a bit of a missed opportunity in the upcoming series if what I hear about it as I uploaded this video in February 2022 is going to be a very big missed opportunity. But anyway, let's move on to the bigger force we see, the Haradrim, or the Haradim, however you want to pronounce it. The people of Harad, again, were people from the south. A very different culture, very martial and warlike, similar to the Easterlings, supposedly divided into some kind of mini micro-kingdoms, but unified basically under Sauron. Although there is references in the books that not all peoples of the Harad or the Easterlings were servants of Sauron. There was a great deal of infighting and differences of opinion within their culture on this topic. But again, that's book lore. Movie lore, they're all the bad guys. They're wicked men. They are the bad humans that enslave these amazing looking creatures that they actually ride. They're basically a giant elephant, or an oliphant, as I believe Sam calls them. But these are very impressive war elephants that they ride into battle with huge, great big palisades built on top of them from which they can rain death upon the enemies of the Harad and ultimately the enemies of Sauron himself.
I still only count as one!
As I said, those creatures were very impressive. I thought that they made that battle. I mean, they made it. I mean, at first you thought this was going to be an awesome battle and you see all the orcs and the ogres and the rest of it trundling up, and then these beasts, literally these gigantic creatures, waddle into the battle. The Mumakil really do boss it when they come onto the battlefield. They absolutely slaughter the riders of Rohan. And this is something I mentioned in my previous video. I know that technically speaking these are the bad guys, but why do the bad guys always have the coolest toys? I mean, is there any reason that the riders of Rohan can't ride a warg, or at least have a small contingent of them? Who says that? I mean, I know in the books it's different. I mentioned that in this video, but I'm talking the movie verse here. It doesn't look like it. And Mumakil are just basically large animals. They're just elephants, as they're referenced. They could easily be used by the free peoples of the West as well as peoples of the East. I assumed in the 4th Age you'd probably get an element of it, but they're clearly superior to horses in many regards. Maybe not for just general usage, but for war usage, certainly. So that really is all we see of them in the movies. As I said, this is movie channel and I'm exploring the movies, and I was really excited to see these guys. And I do find it a bit of a shame that these people decided to side with Sauron, because imagine how much weaker Sauron would have been if these people would have not sided with him, because they were really badass. They kicked ass. And it seems like that they're the forgotten humans. I mean, I know not all humans are good. I think that's the whole point. But they are mankind. Why not try to get them on your side? Why was no efforts made to make the Easterlings and the Haradrim, and for that matter even the Corsairs, or maybe not them, because they were pirates, they were criminals, and they were basically corrupted by the Númenóreans, Harad being an ancient Númenórean settlement. As I've said, that's a bit off topic. It's more book verse, and there's plenty of channels that follow the books, and we're following the movies here. There are several things about them that stand out as, to me, interesting. Some of them in some ways are a little bit of an obvious cliche. Every race of men from Middle-earth in the Lord of the Rings seems to look or have a feel of a different real-world culture. It makes them feel very grounded. For example, the people of Gondor have a very Roman feel. Their architecture is grand, it is stark, it is white, but it is beautiful. Their army is in shining, gleaming armour, and they're very much an infantry force. Then you've got the Riders of Rohan. They're almost more medieval. They're all more like medieval knights, heavy armour, they are elaborately dressed. They kind of remind me of Housecarls, which were ancient early medieval warriors that were the bodyguards of the king, and like the warrior elites, the professional armies that existed basically after the Romans in Western Europe. And that's kind of what they remind me of. Then you've got the Easterlings, who obviously are more of an Eastern power. They're more samurai, they're more Chinese sort of culture. And then you've got the people of Harad, who I'm not entirely sure which culture they're exactly meant to be parodying in the movie, but it's pretty clear there's something. They seem to have a very tribal culture, very martial culture, and they seem to use a lot of war paint. They paint their bodies and they paint their mumakils with these large elaborate glyphs, as well as red paint all down its shoulders and limbs. And I don't know what these are supposed to mean without delving into book lore, which I'm not going to do, but clearly it all adds to this world building of a society that we don't know much about, who clearly have an ancient culture which is just as important and as vital as that of the Gondorians or the people of Rohan or any of the other peoples of Middle-earth. And for those that are wondering, I'm not going to bother mentioning those sort of feral mountain people we see. Those just, to me, just seem the wild men. Nah, they're not. They don't. In the film, they don't seem like a culture. They just literally seem like outcast farmers and criminals. That's what they seem like in the movie. These peoples feel like a culture. The Corsairs at least come from the city of Harad, and not Harad. They at least have their own settlements and seem to have something about them. Now, I'm going to weigh in on something I don't normally do. I'm going to weigh in on my thoughts on the upcoming Rings of Power series, which I'm kind of curious about other people's thoughts on. And this is the missed opportunity I'm sensing. Now, I know I personally don't care about all the controversy that seems to be stirring up over the fact that there's a black hobbit or there's a black elf or whatever. And I know there's some talk about how there's an interspecies romance between a black elf man and a white woman. And I know the bottom part of the internet is really in uproar about probably the cross-racial relationship more than anything. I don't care. I've heard stories and I've heard people whinge and complain and moan for years over things like, and I'll be honest, I don't like this either in Doctor Who, where they changed the Doctor into a woman. I haven't found the series anywhere near as enjoyable as I used to. That's just more of a reflection on the writing than the actors in it. But then again, I didn't really like the Capaldi either, so different story, different video, different channel altogether, actually. Now, I don't care at all about that. In fact, one of the things I do like is the fact that they've made original characters that are of these new races. They haven't just taken Elrond and made him black or turned him into a woman in order to create a powerful character. They've gone out of their way to try to create a powerful female character, a powerful male character who's black, things like that within the Legendarium. Now, this is an adaptation, so I'm not as bothered about it not following the lore as well. And I am a little confused as to how they're telling a Tolkien story without the rights to all of his things, but I'm reserving judgment on that. If it ends up being good, then it'll be good. But I do feel there's a lost opportunity. I know there are some references to a settlement that has Harad in it, which does make me wonder if the Haradrim are going to be in it. Now, there is a whole story that was never told about these peoples of the east and peoples to the south. And quite frankly, if they want to have black characters or people of different, what are considered minorities in Western culture, in them, why not just have them be of the Easterlings and the Haradrim? Just because in the movies they're portrayed as villains, as I said, following the movie law, they're all bad guys. All the Easterlings are the bad guys, all the Haradrim are the bad guys, but we don't see the women, the children, the civilian men, the carpenters, the traders, the other peoples of their society, the teachers and their writers and their poets. We don't see them, we don't see anything of them. Are we to assume that these cultures are nothing but a bunch of warriors riding around on the backs of Mumakils, slaughtering all before them? No, there's got to be more to them. And I do think that was a lost opportunity to explore, if that's not the way that they go, and that's just my thoughts on it. As for, again, all of the race swapping, just keep that out of my comments. I'm not interested at all. I don't care what their skin colour is. I don't care what their religion is. I don't care what race they are. It really doesn't matter at all, as long as they tell a good story. And people for years have been saying, oh, well, you stop race swapping characters just to make a strong character who's Asian because you can't write an original one. Well, they've gone out of the way and they've wrote an original one. So let's see how it goes. But I do think that there was a lost opportunity if they don't go in that direction, but that's just my feeling on it as someone that likes to write a lot of fan fiction myself. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this video. If you made it all the way to the end, I apologise how echoey I know this sounds because I'm not filming this in my usual location and I'm in kind of a little corner. If you follow me on Instagram, I think I shared a picture of what my current corner where my recording equipment is, and it's a little echoey. I probably won't be able to edit it out in post. But all that said, if you made it all the way to the end and the echo didn't drive you insane, leave your thoughts in the comments below, but keep it nice. I do not want to hear racist garbage in my comment section. She'll just be blocked. I'm really not interested. But if you got a fair comment on the conversation, feel free to join in and have a discussion about it, a sensible one. With all that said, thank you for watching, and bye bye.